Welcome everybody to History Lessons. I'm your host and journalist Sin-seer, and this evening we're joined by a very special guest, Apani B. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Let me move a little. I'm trying to figure out which way I need to move. That way.
Okay,
hmm
there you go.
Yeah.
So we're going to take it back a little bit and work our way up to 2024. I'm sure you got a lot of good and exciting things to share with the audience. But before we do that, take us back to where you were born and raised.
Oh, I'm from New York, from Queens.
Take us back to a day in the life, Apani B. Teenage years.
Oh, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I was looking through a photo album today. It's my bestie from high school's birthday today.
Okay,
So,
happy birthday, bestie.
yeah, her name is Joyce. Hi, Joyce. Happy birthday. Yeah, so I had posted like a photo. I was looking, I was like, I know I got an old photo of us somewhere from high school. And I posted that, and then I was looking through all of the photos. I was like, damn, we was lit. It was a good time. I mean, I was already rapping at that time. I had put in a post too. She was my OG rap partner. I was in my first female rap group with her. Her name was Joyce Apani, and it was another girl named Makita, and her name was Jam.
Okay. Well, maybe we should take it back just a little bit. When did you start
Further,
getting into hip hop and, taking the art form serious as far as your writing goes?
I probably got more serious in high school, but I started, like writing poetry and like just doing artsy stuff as a kid. My mom could sing and she could draw really well, so she was, artsy, and she liked to sew. So when I was a kid, those are the kind of like recreational activities I had. I was just always creating things, like making things and writing poetry, and I was just like super imagination. Like I had so many imaginary friends. Like I used to have all these scenarios going on. Like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just in my head all the time, crazy.
So,
Only child with a lot of time on my hands.
right.
So yeah, and then I started writing. I was doing all kind of stuff. Like I said, I was sewing, I was singing, I could never really draw that well. I could draw a lot better now, but I'm not great. My kids are amazing. My kids are very young, but they're like next level. Like if you saw their artwork, you would think that an adult drew it. You know what I
No.
mean? They're really, really good. Um, but I could never really draw like that. But yeah, I like to, like I said, sing and do poetry and dance. I used to dance a lot. Stuff like that. Just making stuff.
So, did you start out solo? You mentioned you were in a group earlier on.
I had a bunch of crews, like pretty much. I don't. Well, probably in that group that I was talking about high school, but it was like I was getting serious, but I'm the only one, who's doing anything. I was the most serious in the group. No disrespect to y'all ladies, you know what I'm saying? But I was the most serious in the group. I think everybody would probably agree with that.
Right.
you
What
know.
was the music scene like earlier on before really getting into the industry? What do you remember seeing around you?
Um. Well, I mean, I guess I was just trying to get in. I was living in Queens, so I have friends from high school and junior high school that was like rapping and making beats, and then everybody was talking. It was a small world, so like, everybody be talking, oh, Bonnie rap or whatever, and so it was just like everybody just wound up getting together after a while. Everybody who was creating and doing stuff, everybody would, they had their own stuff. Everybody had their own things going on, but you just start kind of gravitating. So everybody that was, in the hood, it was kind of like um, large professors live at the barbecue. That was the venue in Queens, right? Like the barbecues, people freestyling, hanging out, parties. Just ciphers, really. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? That was really like if you was a rapper, that was foundational for you. Like you could rap or whatever, but ciphering. You know what I'm saying? When you get started, everybody kind of kicking, doing their thing. Same thing. I mean, I think probably with all art forms. I used to dance I said Joyce was my dance partner. We used to make up routines, dance routines to Big Daddy Kane in our backyard. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
You were the scoop and scrap. Were you scrap?
absolutely right. Sparry sisters. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. So you know, it was fun. It was fun. You know, and we was um we was making pause tapes. You know, trying to do something. You know, super young, like I said, high school. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Kind of gives a timeline as we move along. What time were you saying this would be?
Well, I got skipped a grade. I went from the seventh grade to the ninth grade. I never went to the eighth grade.
Wow.
So, um, you know, early '90s.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And my homeboy finally got a Casio 2 second sampler. We thought we was the shit. He was like, "Oh man, we about to have some real beats," you know.
Right.
So, um, then things started going from there. Like I started, you know, you go from writing rhymes to making songs, you know, and everybody making music together. So now everybody's influencing everybody. We're learning. You know, everybody's got a different ear. We're all serious because we're young and we're here. We spend a lot of time doing that. You're writing at home, going to shows, like your whole social life is, you know, revolving around it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so it was a cool time. When I started recording, there was two things actually that was kind of happening at the same time in terms of my influences. I'll give you a cool little tidbit. So I was talking about my homegirl Joyce from high school. So now three things. Um, Large Pro went to my high school. I don't know. I don't know if you remember, but we was in the same class for like one day.
Oh wow.
Thing Breaking Adams had just come out, and then um, his dances in the his video was also still in the school. It was inbound. And then when I was looking through pictures today, I saw pictures of them. We was all taking pictures together in front of the school. So that was one thing. You know, I was already rapping. I was excited. I was watching Video Music Box. You know what I'm saying? So,
Ralph
you know,
Daniels.
right. So then I was recording. It's like I said, two things. I'm trying to remember how we made this introduction. But anyway, with the studio that I started going to, this cat Earl Blaze, where I recorded a lot of my early records, he was working with a poet named Shaki. I don't know if you remember her, but
Yes.
right, he was working with Shaki and also Anti Pop.
Okay.
So I start, you know, we were all people. My first crew, which was called DMO. By this time, you know, Joyce, the jam thing wasn't happening. It was kind of just me, you know. Um, and I don't even know if we recorded. Maybe we recorded like one thing or tried to do something. We had some songs, but you know, it was more like we were trying to like perform, like, you know, talent show level. You know what I'm saying? Type thing.
Right.
You know. So, but anyhow, so met Anti Pop at the studio. We was recording out the same place, and then oh, I met this chick Stacy Agarat. I don't talk about her that much in interviews. I hope she see it. But Stacy Agarat, she became like one of my early managers. She was managing a group called STP,
Organized
simply
confusion.
simply Two Positive MCs. Right. Troy ain't
Dope.
like they don't like when I call them by their names. But yeah, Prince Paul Barrow Monch. Right. So and OC used to stay I think at Prince House. So I was always around them. That was my one camp. And then I, you know, my cool DMO. And then I was doing stuff with, you know, Earl Blaze at his spot. DMO was all recording at Earl Blaze spot. Anti-pop. We started getting into all kind of stuff. We was doing shows. We had radio shows. We just doing everything. Like, what was the scene like before we got in the scene? We just trying to get seen. So we were going everywhere. You know, we were linking up with all of the people that were doing things at the time. You know, you go to the radio, you go do a show. You know, we running into like Young Juggernauts and Company Flow, and you know, making records and all of these, you know, cats. You know what I'm saying? So the cipher start ciphering. Hold on, and I'm the arsonist.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
a lot of
Bunch
rock.
of different people, but you know what I'm saying? Natural elements,
Right.
Quali, um,
Wow.
you know, so you know everybody would be at the spot. New Eurekan Poets Cafe, different places, wetlands, SOBs, you know.
Right.
We just trying to everybody trying to get on, everybody, you know, Lyricist Lounge, you know, Aunt and Danny, you know.
So are you solo at this time? Or are you with a certain crew?
I mean, what does that mean? Like I've always
Right.
yes,
Okay.
right, yes, but I've always done, you know, all kinds of projects. So I'm supposed to be working on an album. We are. We just haven't started yet. We're just curating beats, and then we just kind of had. I don't know if I should spill the beans, but you're asking me the questions, so I don't know if I want to break it. But
Absolutely.
Shabam and I are have been working on the album, and we had, you know, gotten some submissions from, you know, different producers and stuff like that. Picked a few different tracks, and then Spinner had submit um, some beats for the project, you know, and Shabam's in Atlanta right now. Me and Spinner's still in New York. So Shabam had come to visit. I took him to go. Well, we recorded. I'm doing a solo album with the Jazz Spastics,
Wow.
and I have some other. That's like the main thing that I'm finishing first. I'm focused on that more than anything. I'm trying to get one more collab on there. I'm trying to decide. I think I know who I want it to be, but I'm trying to look for a great female feature
Okay.
for the project. I think I know who I want, but um, I'm gonna think about it a little bit more.
No doubt.
But
Can
for
you talk a little bit about shopping the demo around this time, and to any labels, and was there a bidding war at all for Apani B Fly?
no, I mean, I wish I could say that that's the truth. But what I will tell you is that I worked a lot. You know what I mean? And it wasn't really like, honestly, I said this in an interview before, and people were surprised. I never really had been signed to a label. I had a lot of distribution deals,
Right.
and so I put out my projects myself and appeared on a great many projects in terms of like collaborations and then like license deals. You know what I'm saying? And I worked a lot overseas doing different projects, you know, Japan, Europe, stuff like that. And I still do like, you know, do a lot of my work. Like that's how I got the Jazz Spastics, you know, album. We collaborated, you know, on a record already. I did a, you know, record with New Jabez in Japan. So, you know, once that sort of kind of became my format, I mean, like, you know, I was always shopping. Somebody say, oh, I know somebody at this label, come and send them some stuff. But I just feel like at the time, like, you see sort of what the template has evolved into for female rappers. And I just think at the time, you know, people even told me straight to my face, like, you know, you're dope. We kind of just don't know what to do with you.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was kind of like, you know, a great idea that kind of hadn't met its time, you know, wasn't the right time, I feel. You
Right.
know, honestly, I think that kind of strengthened me, honestly, for, you know, where I'm at now, because I was able to do so much work. I had my children. I've been away. I'm just coming back after being, you know, sort of away from music for a while.
Right.
And just the body of work that I had put in is allowing me to, you know, come back and, you know, I don't want to say pick up where I left off. Is better than where I left off. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, you know, I was almost probably feeling like, you know, I was a little burnt out, you know, a little bit on,
Understand.
yeah, because I mean, just with anything that you really love and that you're pursuing, it was just like, I mean, I think that the female component, and I just think if you it's like now I'm older, I think a little different, so I'm trying to find the right words to say it, because it's definitely a symptom of, or a condition of the industry, right? Like, but also you got to be a Jedi in these streets, and you kind of have to counter program what's happening. You know what I'm saying? And my story is not necessarily unique, and I'm not even talking about like the sign part. I'm talking about the burnout part. I mean,
Right.
men and women, right? Male and female artists, but especially with a lot of women, like, you're trying to be yourself and do what you do, and the focus is on your looks, or your sexuality, and just frivolous things, when like I'm a straight up nerd. I'm a sexy ass nerd, but I'm a straight up fucking nerd. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I I watch, you know, math and science videos all day. That's what I do at my time when I'm listening to beats, and, you know, like read philosophy all day. Like, you know what I'm saying? And when I'm not scrolling like the rest of mankind, right? But like, these are my interests, like just being productive and learning, like just being a lifelong learner. I'm kind of just focused on that all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, right, processing data so that I can, accomplish more things and do more things handily. More the easier it is, right?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm a voracious consumer of information. That's how I like to describe myself. You
Very
know what I
tough.
mean? Right. So, this is my personality, and I love music, and I like I like to think that my music is fun, and that I don't burden people with having to be intellectual when they're trying to enjoy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All the time. Some people like that too. Like, I come from a purist seed, and the purists like that, right?
Right.
They like clever, right?
Right.
But I also enjoy the challenge of making clever fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not easy to do that.
Not at all.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think as women, you're kind of um, burdened by that a little bit more,
Right.
right? Because, like I said, it's like it almost does. Like I said, for me personally, just that condition. Like I said, I'm a little older, so I've become a mother in that time. So I've grown into my womanhood in a different way that I was like when you're like a kid, you don't even know what that even means.
Right.
Right? Your womanhood, your manhood, right? You don't know what that means.
Not at
You
all.
haven't lived. You don't know what it means till you live. You don't know, like I said, I've pushed life through my womb. I'm a totally different person 3 times,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Right. So, like I said, I think it's definitely a problem with the infrastructure of the game, but every program can be counter programmed, you know. And because I didn't have an experience, I didn't know that.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't have enough experience in life to know that and know how to execute that and apply that information.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Every problem has a solution.
Right.
Right. There are no inventions. There are no discoveries. The answers exist. They are just yet to be touched.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, I feel like now, like I said, I'm not where I left off. I'm actually in a better place.
Can't wait to hear about your 2024 adventures. We're going to get to
Right.
that momentarily. Um, we're going to get into your discography. But before we do that, can you talk a little bit about your relationship earlier on with Bobbito?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I always give Bobbito the credit for being the one that like really put me on. like I said, everybody was trying to be seen, and one of the places that you would go be seen is the New York Poets Cafe. And Stretch and Bob radio show was the biggest, you know, radio show in New York. And if you was trying to come up, you know, it was a good look to go try to, you know, meet those guys. So I went to the New York and they had an open mic night, and I was fucking scared to death because you know it's not like I was already you know a show off, but you know I was on my R. Kelly shit. I was fighting for my fucking life. You heard? I was like, okay, we could do this, girl. Um, you know, I wanted it to take. Get on the mic and people will clap for you, but that doesn't mean anything will happen.
Right.
People will be like, it's great. It's New York. It's a lot of great. Everywhere you look is great. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but it worked. I gave Bob I did my thing. I had a Radio Shack demo tape. Gave Bob the tape. It was a song called Under Pressure. And he played it on the radio. He called me the same day he was gonna play it. They used to have like a beat battle or some type of new song battle type shit on there. And he called me and was like, yo, I'm gonna play the song tonight at whatever time, so just be listening. I'm like, oh shoot. You know what I'm saying? So I'm listening. I think he plays at the end of the show. I'm listening, waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. You gotta call in and vote for the song. Right? So I was trying to call this shit busy as a motherfucker. Right? So I couldn't get through. And then I finally get through. And he was like, oh man, we just ended the vote. He was like, you lost by one vote. You would have got in and you would have called and vote for yourself. You'd have won that.
You know who you were up against?
Can't remember.
Mm.
Bob might know. He probably got an archive somewhere. His birthday just passed. I was supposed to go to an event, but I had a family thing, so I didn't make it.
Did you ever get a chance to go to the radio station and rock
Oh
the
yeah.
mic? Okay. Talk
Yeah.
about some of your best memories up there.
Oh man, I barely remember any of that stuff. It was a blur. We were doing that kind of stuff all of the time. Like I said, that was the thing back then. You know, you go to the open mic, you go to a radio show, you ciphering outside, like you know, just networking, just whatever you could do, like performing a lot. You know, all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But I remember we had a radio show that was probably one of the most memorable. I got a job at Loud Records from that radio show, working for SRC with Steve Rifkin,
Mm.
doing college radio. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't that great at it. I wanted to be signed to the label, but I was just trying to get in. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? It's hard work.
Did life
You know?
change for you at all after appearing on the radio and your song?
Oh, absolutely. Um, because Bob didn't just put me on the radio. Like I said, that was my first sort of, you know, he just kind of like broke me and introduced people to me. Like Bob had all of the hip hop. If you like hip hop and you live in New York, like from the biggest to the smallest, you listen to Bob's show. You know what I mean? So to be played on his show was a big deal. You know, so and he played everything hot. That's when you go to listen to everything hot. That and 88 hip hop used to go up there all the time too. That was like, but that was later. That was like internet radio. That was like, I was like discovering fire and shit when it was right. But yeah, that was a big deal. I was like crazy, but he didn't stop there. Like he, you know, he used to get me lots of write ups and you know, like just Bob got me a couple of bags, man. Like he put money in my pocket. Like he, you know, he's opened doors for me. You know what I'm saying? So there was that, and then after that, he was a big advocate for me. So that was helpful. And because he was paying attention to me, other people start paying attention to me. And, I had a lot of peers. So I was doing other work at the time. Like I said, it was sort of like this just, conglomeration of energy that kind of converged for me, at the right time. I was, another crew, like when you say, are you solo? I'm kind of always solo, but have all these sort of satellite situations going on, So, I was doing like collab records with my peoples at the time. Like I said, so it'd be like, Black Star was doing their album. I have a credit on the first Black Star album. I had this, what I had going on in Queens was a Queens thing. You know what I'm saying? So like Stacy was from Queens, Farron them from Queens. I'd be over, we'd be in Southside or some spot in Queens or whatever doing Queen shit. I had a whole different team of hood people. Rockwilder was from Queens, so sometimes I'd be hanging out with Rockwilder. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a whole team of Queens people. My boy DJ Sage, who used to work in Hot Wax on Jamaica Ave. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hot Wax was a big thing. Like it was kind of like, I guess, like a Fat Beats of Queens, like, that sort of thing. Everybody used to go there and pick up records. You know what I mean? My boy Tempest, what the hell was the name of his group? They were signed to, I think, I'm gonna say Def Jam. I can't remember. They was like a horrorcore type group.
Flatliners?
Flatliners. Yes. Tempest used to work at Hot Wax.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He from Queens. So like I said, it was like all of these sort of, I was in all of these little bubbles, you know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like, you got different friends. You got your friends at work. You got your, your golf friends, maybe your friends you went to school with, and you know what I'm saying? Or, friends who like to collect stamps, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing.
Right.
So I just had all these sort of different like conglomerates of crews. Like Anti-Pop had their thing popping off. They were recording and their stuff. They had like a whole plan for how they wanted to launch this stuff. They were like, yo, we want to get you on this record. And then they were like, oh, we planning this tour. They were the first people that took me out the country. You know what I mean? So then we went to London and then we did a project with a group that was on EMI UK, right? So
Right.
that's when I really start doing projects, right? Like, so now I start establishing my catalog, you know what I'm saying? And then, what else happened? Right. Like I said, so then, Organized Confusion, I think their second album wasn't on the first one, but the second, I was there when they were recording some of the stuff and working on it. But second album, I was like on one of the hook. I think song was like Questions or something like that. I don't remember.
You were friends with the art director for the album cover, weren't you?
Oh, Matt Dude, yeah. Him and Geology. They
Okay.
know Geology. Yeah, they Doable Arts. Doable Arts was Matt Dude and Geology. So now what I was thinking, is funny you say that when I said I had all these my Queens people. Now Matt Dude was a friend of mine through some other cats I knew from the hood, LUN. And you remember a group signed to Tommy Boy, Phase and Rhythm?
Yes.
Right. My boy Dibs. Dibs did some production for me on my project, my album that I did for Japan. But so those was my hood people just from the hood.
Right.
They lived in Queens Village, and I'm in Hollis. I mean, like next town over. You know what I mean? So like I said, I had all of these sort of like, I wasn't that many females rapping back then. So like everybody in Queens was like, everybody knew what I was doing. So like I said, I had, Rock Wilder was Hollis people, Dibs and them was Queens Village people, and then like, like I said, Matt Dooley was a, Queens Village dude, and he knew, he started doing the art with, he did the cover for Organized, and then it was Geology, but Geology he knew from school, went to SVA. So Geology did Woman in Me. He produced for my first single, Spinning did Estrogen. Geology did the B-side Woman in Me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like I said, all these little interconnected situations I just had. Everybody was talented. They were just putting their talents together in sort of like, creating. And I was friends with Kweli. So just through the scene or whatever. Me and him was real tight. What do you call it? At one time we used to hang out all of the time or whatever. And then he was like, "Yo, come through and get on this hook for Hater Players or whatever." And then like I said, just different stuff. So people just start, you just meeting people. I was hanging out with I was doing records with Dysfunctional, and I don't know if I don't think I met Evil D and them through them, but I know they was all people, Bushwick cats or whatever. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, Beat Miners produced some records for me. I
Right.
was on like one of their compilation projects. Um, Mr. Complex was a Queens dude. He also knew Pharaoh. I think I knew Complex from Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? Complex asked me to be on a record, do some ad libs or some hooks or some shit. I don't know, it was a verse. I don't know. Like, you asked me my memory. I don't even remember.
Right.
It was so many, I guess a little interconnected things or whatever. And then but that's how I met Shaban. And then I think that's how I met Spinner through Complex because he asked
Oh,
us to get on this record. And then, well, he asked me to do one record for him. And then he asked us to do, like, I think some ad libs or something or hook. Then the next one was like a full record, I think. And that was Motion 2000, Polyrhythmatics. And then that's how I met Shaban. And then Spinner produced that. And then, like I said, Spinner produced Estrogen for me. And then we just started working together. Like I did a bunch of his compilations, and we did some other like little weird projects overseas and different stuff like that. And not to call it weird, I'm sorry, but like alternative feels and just different vibes, different things we did.
right.
And then Jig Masters, I did verses for various Jig Masters projects. You know what I'm saying? So just like I said, big world, small world. Everybody was kind of all connected. I was all over the place. So even though it was like solo, then I was doing, I don't know how, but like I said, I was always shopping my own records, right? So when I put out my first single, I didn't have a deal, so they were like, different distributors, different labels. I'm shopping it. You asked me about that shopping demo. So I'm shopping to these different entities and, you know, established a couple of relationships where, I could put out my releases through these companies or what have you. And I had a connect at Nervous. Shout out to my boy Macadocious. We working on some stuff still to this day. We got some nice things in the works or whatever. But I was playing him a record for a compilation. I think it was like the Independence Day compilation. And what do you call it? He was like, "What else you doing? You're always busy. You're always working on something with somebody. What you got going on?" And I was like, "Well, I can't talk about it." And he was like, "What you mean? You can't talk about it, like spill it and shit, right?" Like, 'cause he was pressing me very hard. So I
Right.
was like, "Well, I was told not to tell. I just did a record with Complex and Shaban and Spin It." And Complex did tell everybody. If you look at interviews, he'll tell you that he told us not to tell, and he did. But I was trying not to tell. I was being pressed very hard. But I played the record for Mac, who was the A&R at Nervous at the time, and shouts to Justo. I think I was cool with Justo, and that's how I wound up. I met Justo in the wild or whatever. God rest Justo, mixtape awards. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, yeah. So anyhow, um, I'm like, I can't play it for you. He was like, just play it for me. So I played him the record Motion 2000. And he was like, look, all y'all, that's like a super group. Like, I'll give y'all a deal right now. Go tell everybody y'all a group. I want y'all to do some songs. Let's spin and produce the whole shit. I'll give you a deal today. So I was like, oh, okay, a check. Let's go.